Today we're going to take this block plane kit from Hock Tools and make this block plane. Now this block plane kit from Hock Tools is brand new and includes everything you need to make a block plane. Today I'm going to go through the unboxing and assembly of all the parts that are included so you can see just how easy it is to make a block plane in your shop. Included in the kit are two sides, the back and front middle sections, a cross pin, the blade wrapped in protective paper, a wedge, and a 1/8 inch dowel for alignment. Now this kit makes what's called a Krenov style block plane. Essentially what we're going to do is glue two sides to a front and rear block that have the ramps already milled. Of course there's a cross pin and a wedge to hold the blade, and that forms the block plane. The first thing we want to do is dry assemble the hand plane, starting with the rear of the plane. Now the rear of the plane, the sides and the back, the center section has a small chamfer here at the rear, so you know that that is the back of the plane. I find it most useful to start with the cross pin, inserting into the two sides, and then we'll slide in the center block and clamp that together and get everything nicely aligned. And what we want to do is make sure that the rear of the plane and the bottom of the plane are all nicely aligned, perfectly aligned. Now once we have that aligned, I'm going to go ahead and draw a triangle here at the back of the plane so we can make sure we assemble it the same way next time. Now once we have everything aligned right across the back and across the bottom, we're going to go ahead and drill 1/8 inch holes here at the back of the plane that we'll use. Then we'll insert this dowel rod, pieces of the dowel rod into those holes to keep everything in alignment as we go ahead and do the glue up. Now that I've got the dowel rod cut into some small 3/4 inch pieces, we're going to go ahead and hammer those into the alignment holes. So what we want to do is slide the front block into place or close to in place, and then I'm going to go ahead and clamp that from the top. Again, we wanted to get about 3/32 from the rear block, but we'll check that in a minute. Now I'll go ahead and clamp this from the top, and I want to get it nice and flush here at the bottom. Once you get that pretty flush there, we'll go ahead and pop the blade in, bevel side down from the rear, obviously. Bevel side down. And we want it to not be able to poke through the bottom, so just barely hit the front of the plane, and you can see that there, not quite clearing, and that's where we want to be. You can double check, and that should be about 3/32 of a gap between the front and the rear. Now once we've got that in place with the correct gap, we're going to do the same process, drilling holes at the front for the alignment pins. Now with all the pins in place, I'm going to go ahead and double check the alignment, especially across the bottom, make sure I'm nice and smooth across the sides and the center. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw a pencil line on the inside of the sides where the ramp meets the inside of the sides, because I want to make sure I'm not getting glue in those areas. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the inside faces of the sides where the ramps hit it, and make sure I do not get glue in that section when I go ahead and do the glue up. So at this point I'm ready to disassemble all my clamps and all the parts, and I'm going to wax the bottom of the plane, all the parts, and the inside ramps and the inside of the sides, just in case any glue gets in those areas. It'll be easy to clean up. Before I take apart the sides, I'm just going to double check my clamping cauls. They want to be able to slip in, and not hit these pins. So I'm just using 3/4 plywood here, and so I just want to double check that it's going to fit without hitting those pins before taking everything apart. So we'll take it apart, wax it, and I'll be ready for glue up. my parts laid out here. The wax has been put into the ramps, the bottom, and the center section there. So now I'm ready to do the glue up and clamp everything together. Okay, all the pins, little dowels are in place. Cross pin is in. Now I'm going to go ahead and put my clamping cauls on and clamp it up. You can see I've got some nice even squeeze out everywhere. And I do have a little bit of glue coming out where the ramp is, which is fine. We'll be able to clean that up in about 30 or 45 minutes once the glue is sort of started to set up. I'll go ahead and get in there and start cleaning out the glue from those waxed areas. Now, as the glue is drying on the block plane, I'm going to go ahead and hone the blade for the block plane. Now, I use hollow grinding and freehand honing for my chisels and plane blades. So that's what I'm going to do with my plane blade. But of course, any number of sharpening techniques will work for tuning up this blade. It comes pretty sharp, but of course, you definitely want to take it and flatten the back and hone the front of the blade. Now, if you want a little bit more primer on sharpening, I can highly recommend The Perfect Edge by Hock. This book is just full of everything you'd ever want to know about sharpening, from materials and what sharp means and all the different methods you can use to sharpen chisels and plane blades, etc. So if you want to get bone up a little bit more on sharpening, I can definitely recommend this book. After about 45 minutes, there's just a tiny bit of glue on the inside ramp, and I'm going to take a little chisel here and just pop off that little bit of glue. I'm also going to use a chisel to pop off the glue from the underside here, the bottom of the plane. All right, the glue is all dry, so I'm going to go ahead and pop these clamps off, and then I'll clean up any of the excess glue that snuck out along the sides. Get that cleaned up, and then I want to go ahead and take the wax back off all around the plane, and we'll move on to the next step. So the next thing we want to do is fit the wedge into the block plane. Now the wedge is just a little bit thick. You can see I can't quite get it under the cross pin there. So we want to just remove a little bit of wood from the front until we can just get it nicely snug all the way across there. Now I've got a plane upside down here that I'm going to take some shavings off to pare this down, but of course you can also do this with sandpaper. Here you can see I've got the wedge nice and tight just below the cross pin. We are getting really close to having this block plane ready to go. Next step is to true up the bottom of the sole. Now when we fit the wedge here, it deforms the body of the block plane just slightly. So what we want to do is back the blade up that you just honed away from the opening and knock the wedge in nice and tight. A couple of knocks from the back there will seat that nice and securely. Double check the blade that it's away from the throat opening. Then grab something that's super flat in your shop. I'm using a table saw wing. You could use a jointer bed, anything that's really flat, piece of granite, plate glass. And I've just got some 220 sandpaper here. And I'm going to go ahead and just sand the bottom of this nice and smooth. A few passes here, double check. Definitely got a little bit more to go. So we'll just do a little bit of truing up here. Make sure we get that sandpaper contacting all the way across all the parts. Okay, the bottom is all trued up. On to finally opening the throat so my blade can come through and we can take some shavings. With the sole now trued up, we want to open the throat at the bottom so that the blade can protrude through. You can just make out a shadow line there along the front. That's the amount of wood basically that I have to remove. It's a little shadow hiding the blade there. So I've got to file away a little bit of the front of the block plane so that my blade can stick through. So I'm going to go ahead and use a file with a safe edge and just poke it through and file away just a tiny bit of wood from the front to open up that throat. All right, I've got the blade just barely coming through the front after filing. In fact, it might be just a little bit too tight, but I went ahead. I didn't want to make it too wide. Obviously, tighter is better to start. And I got the wedge fit in there, and we can take a couple shavings. Very nice. Nice, sharp, brand new blade and beautiful plane. Now it's time to shape this to my liking. So after final shaping, there it is, my brand new block plane, and it takes great shavings. I can use it one-handed or two-handed, and I can continue to shape it over time to meet my exact needs. Now, if you've never created your own tool or used a tool of your own making, it is an unbelievable feeling to grab a tool that you created and shaped yourself and put that to use. This block plane kit takes just a few hours to put together, and it'll be up and running in your shop in no time.